So this will be a special video to celebrate me maxing my garden in Plants vs Brainrots. So I will be going through the top 5 tips and tricks that you must know before you even start playing this game. Now some of these tricks will come in earlier in the game, where some of them will come in a bit later, but you must do these 5 things to make sure you don't waste time or resources while playing this game, because I see so many other people make these mistakes. And without further ado, let's get into number 5. So this is tip number 5. Now for tip number 5, look at these two islands. Do you see a difference? Well, obviously my one is bigger than his, so you might ask, wait, how do you increase your islands? Well, it's a very simple thing to do. You simply see my mouse on this side, we click rebirth. Now obviously I've reached the max rebirth, but you can rebirth up to 2 times for now unless they have more in the future. So to rebirth it, the resources are not a lot. The first rebirth is just $1 million, the second rebirth is $50 million. But on top of the money to rebirth, you also need two brainrots, 2 specific brainrots. So do click on this tab and you can see which 2 brainrots you need. So now obviously you can't choose which brainrot you can get, but the moment you get the brainrots needed and of course the money, you just rebirth. Don't be afraid of losing everything, cause you have to rebirth sooner or later to progress in the game. So always press this button and rebirth as soon as you can. Now obviously before you rebirth, it's always a good idea to clear out the shop and get some plants down, because you are restart with $0, so you have some plants down. Yeah. But another thing when you rebirth, besides getting a bigger island size, is if we go into settings, we click stats, and we see these 2 values, right? You can see mine is times 2.15 for money and times 2 for luck. Now when you start the game, you will obviously start with times 1 and times 1. How did I get the 0.15? It's basically just like and follow the page, so but it's just supposed to be times 2 and times 2. So I started with times 1, but every time I rebirth, right, this multiplier goes up, so it goes from times 1 to times 1.5 to times 2. So you essentially gain money and get better brainrots and plants much faster after you rebirth. So you must rebirth as soon as possible, and that is tip 5 for you. Now tip number 4 has to do with brainrots itself. So you might normally swap brainrots by pressing E, and we can just swap the brainrot we are holding with the brainrot on the sand. Now this might seem the most easy way, but what if I told you that there was an easier way to do it? Also, let me ask you how you collect money from a brainrot. You will normally walk 1 big round to collect everything, which wastes a lot of time. Actually, there's a much simpler way to do this. As you can see, my brainrots are accumulating some money, so how do I collect all the money from my brainrots as well as make sure I equip the best brainrot? So if you follow my cursor, we go to back, I'll click on back, and I'll click this button here, equip best brainrots. Now before I click it, make sure you look at my bottom left at the same time. When I click it, right, it auto collects all the money for me, right? So I don't have to collect it. You look at any of my brainrots, maybe we'll look at Cocotanko, the giraffe on the left post brainrot. It currently has over 80,000 stored, 100,000 now. So when I press this, right, notice it goes to 0 because it collects all your money from your brainrots. So if you want to be really efficient when you farm, you can just camp beside the shop and every now and then just press this to collect all your money easily, and this saves a lot of time and energy, especially when you are AFK farming. And that's tip number 4. So we are now at tip number 3. So tip number 3 is actually related to a recent update, so it's a new thing that they just added, which I want to show you. Now if you notice this shop, this gear shop, you might not visit it very often, but tip number 3 is to basically always buy the gears when they are available, especially this frost grenade. Now what does this frost grenade do? Is actually the most broken weapon in the game. It's better than all of this, and I'll show you why. Now if we go to our back, we take the gears, we can see I already have collected 131 force grenades. So what does this do? This essentially freezes a Brainrot on the spot. So let's say I freeze this, I throw it. Yeah, no, it must reach here. Oh yes, let's go to someone else's one. So yeah, if this guy is having problem with his Brainrot, we can just throw it and it will freeze that thing for a few seconds. Now, none of the other thing actually freezes anything. So as you see, you must freeze them over here, you can't freeze them here. But they don't take damage here, so there's no point to freeze them here in the first place. So yeah, why is this the most broken? Because you can stack an infinite number, so you can just keep buying more and more. It's really cheap and it will help you clear the most overpowered Brainrots. So the problem with fighting overpowered Brainrots is they will have a lot of health. They can have over 100,000 health. Now if we actually look at the stats of what all of these items do, the carrot launcher does 500 damage per click. So let's say we have 100,000 health Brainrot walking down the lane, that will need 200 clicks from your carrot launcher, which will take forever. They will walk finish before I can shoot them 200 times. Whereas our force grenade, we can just perma-freeze a Brainrot and let our plants do the work. So obviously plants will be doing more than 500 damage per second, right? Like even a single plant here is doing about 600, so we have 5 of them. There's a few thousand damage per second. Even if your garden is not so good, you're doing a few thousand damage per second. So if you can freeze a Brainrot permanently on the spot with a whole stack of these, you essentially can clear it. So tip number 3 is just to always stock up on this item whenever you have it open in the shop. Now of course the rest are okay, but this is really the most broken item to clear the stronger Brainrots, because let's be honest, if it's a weak Brainrot, why do you need items? Your garden will just clear it automatically, right? And that's tip number 3 for you. Okay, and we are now finally at tip number 2. So what is tip number 2? Let me jump down here. Tip number 2 has to do with this weird fuse machine over here. Now you might ask, what does this machine do? This machine basically fuses one plant and one Brainrot. So before you can even use it, you will need to rebirth at least once. So you can't use it when you just start. You will need to rebirth one time first, then you will unlock this machine. So once you unlock this machine, when do you use it? You should use it right after rebirthing, because after rebirthing you will probably have $0 over here and you will need some quick cash. So before I tell you why you should rebirth, I'll tell you how you use this machine. So it's very simple. You take any plant. We'll just take our dragon fruit. You have to place the plant before the Brainrot, so you have to place the plant first. And it will tell you that you are missing a legendary. So after you put this specific legendary down, then you can press this button and it will fuse it. So I'm not going to fuse this, so I'm going to show you something I fused. So as you can see, this plant over here is a fusion of a cocoa tank with a, if I'm not wrong, is a cocoa tank plus this gives you this. So now why do you want to fuse earlier in the game, especially when you just rebirth your $0? You can just take a cheap plant like maybe this dragon fruit and just rebirth it, right? Because legendaries are not super difficult to get. You can probably get the legendary if you wanted, but I just have auto sell turned on because I don't want legendaries clogging up my space. But yeah, if you notice something, if you see how much all these are producing, a gold mythic gives 2000 per second. This is a big thing. If we look at normal godlies, right, even the one we merged from is only giving 500 per second. This shark is giving 600. Yeah, it's really not giving more than that, but somehow a godly merge Brainrot gives 6000. Look, this is godly, right? It's 6000. This is also godly, but it's 500. So there's over 10 times the amount you will be getting from a normal plant. So when you merge a plant with a Brainrot, right, that Brainrot will give about 10 times the amount of the brainrot you use in the merging process. So that's an insane deal. You should obviously if you have no plants, don't go and merge all your plants. That's not a good idea. You of course want to have a few of the plant before you go ahead and start merging it. So yeah, but if you have excess plants, always try to do the mergers because they just give an insane amount of money. These are the best brainrots. Now one thing you should note, unless you are on your second rebirth, if you are on your first rebirth, don't go too crazy because when you rebirth all your brainrots will be cleared, right? So you don't want some of these overpowered things to be cleared. So you just rebirth plants you're not willing to lose, especially eggplant and your dragon fruit. Those are quite easy to get in the shop. You can just rebirth them, but maybe you don't want to rebirth your cocoa tank or watermelon yet because those are harder to get. So you might want to wait until you're on your second rebirth before you do it on the harder to get plants. So yeah, that's tip number 2, is to learn how to use this fuse machine so you can get a good head start. And that's tip number 2 for you. And we have finally reached tip number 1. Now you might be wondering, what is the most important tip in this game? Now do you notice a difference between my garden and maybe let's say this beginner's garden here? Now obviously I have more plants, that's pretty obvious, and my plants are better, but if you notice something, you will see that he only has 3 lanes unlocked, whereas I have all, how many lanes is this? All 7 lanes unlocked. So if we take a look at the left side and at the right side, you can see that my left side has far more brainrots spawning than the right side. So tip number 1 is to unlock all the lanes as fast as possible, because while you don't have to worry about some lanes having weaker plants, you will get more brainrots in the lane spawning in your lanes when you have more lanes unlocked versus if you just have maybe 1 or 2 lanes unlocked. So tip number 1 is to really unlock all your lanes as fast as possible. Now obviously don't just keep saving up, you obviously need to upgrade your other stuff as well, but number 1 is always just get everything unlocked. Don't be afraid to unlock a lane because you have plants. Just put a few cheap plants here first, you can always replace them later on, right? It's okay even if your plants can't kill the good brainrots, because if you didn't unlock the lane, that brainrot would have never spawned in the first place, right? So don't be afraid of the brainrots going down the weaker lane and not getting wiped out. Why? Because you will have like much more brainrots coming, right? So if you didn't open it, you won't ever get a brainrot. So yeah, tip number 1 is to make sure you get all your lanes unlocked so you get the maximum amount of brainrots coming down. And obviously with more brainrots, you have more chances at getting this mythic, godly or secret brainrots. And yeah, that's tip number 1. I hope you enjoyed this video and this video helped you to play this game. So do leave comment on your thoughts of this video, and of course liking and subscribing would really help me out. And as always, thanks for watching.